Toothpaste is such a stupid, silly thing.
What are the side effects of having fluoride?
Fluoride is a neurotoxin.
What does it do?
It can make you stupid. Recent studies have showed that the chronic use of fluoride can actually lower your IQ.
How many times a day should you be pooping?
That's a good question. At least once. I know we didn't come on to talk about poop. If you're not pooping every day, fix that.
What's the best way of fixing that?
Fix your diet, fix your gut, eat clean, get plenty of fiber, make sure you're not putting poison into your body, stop eating processed foods. Ideally, there's only two things you should do in bed: breed and read.
Okay, there we go. I was about to say.
Interestingly, another intervention for infertility that I'm recommending, guys and girls, see a chiropractor.
Chiropractor?
Yeah,
Seriously?
that's a thing.
For guys
I know, I'm
or
telling
women?
you.
Jeff, appreciate you making the hike up this morning.
My pleasure. It's not a fun hike, by the way.
No, I used to live out your way and do that hike to Van Nuys every day.
I know, and I grew up in the LA area, actually, and I don't miss it.
You're like, it's a shitty drive.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess let's go.
Say the first word so I can put in my.
I know, and I'm waiting for it.
So we have a tradition here, Jeff.
Okay, let's do it.
The tradition is Brian books the guest,
Yeah.
sends me a link. I don't pay attention to the link, and I assume what we're going to be talking about based on the guest's name.
I understand.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this all originated from a porn star. Brian sent me a link and said, hey, we have a porn star on the show.
Is this where I take my pants off?
Almost.
Okay.
Almost. So the porn star, and I was like, okay, perfect. I'm going to have all these questions for her. You know, typical questions you want to ask a porn star.
Like, who's your daddy?
Exactly. Who's your daddy? What's your favorite position?
Right.
Daddy issues, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Right. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me Google the porn star and see how hot she is, what she looks like.
Of course.
And I Google it, and it's
How
a
did I
big
look?
schlong.
Yeah.
It's a dude.
Oh.
And I was like, all right, that was way off. So when I saw your name come through, I was like, Jeff, to me, seems like an attorney with 30 plus years of experience. We're going to be talking about most likely corporate law.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Actually, Brian didn't tell you this, but we're recording this podcast as an intervention for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're here to share with you the truth,
Perfect.
and we hope you hear it and change your ways.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh,
So,
this is going to
can
be
you
great.
tell us about yourself? Kind of
Sure. It's a great introduction since you don't actually know who I am, which is perfect.
corporate attorney, 30 years practicing. We're going to talk about corporate law.
So I'm a primary care physician. I've been in private practice for over 30 years in Orange County, California. I don't even know how I met Brian. I've been following him on social media, and he is wide-ranging and impressive, and the number of followers is staggering. I've been on social media now for a couple years, and so I don't remember. I reached out a while ago because I wanted to meet you, share your platform, mainly introduce my followers to you because I think your content is spot on. So during COVID, I had a bit of an awakening even before that. I discovered that most of what I've learned in medical school is bullshit, and I had to reteach myself a lot of things to do with medicine. And I've transformed my practice and what I do from a traditional allopathic MD practice into a much more holistic, integrative practice.
What's allopathic?
Allopathic just means traditional. So it's the way that doctors are trained in the United States. They're MDs. It's a disease state model, meaning there isn't an illness or a condition that you don't have that I can't whip out my prescription pad and find a pharma solution to what ails you. That's the way most physicians in traditional medical schools in the United States are taught. Big pharma influence. As a matter of fact, pharmaceutical companies often sponsor medical schools. Probably at most medical schools, there's a building with the name of a big pharma company that you would know, brought to you by Pfizer or Moderna or GlaxoSmithKline or AbbVie or what have you. A day doesn't go by in a traditional American medical school where there isn't a lunch that's provided to the medical students or residents or fellows that's sponsored by a pharmaceutical company. Now, I'm not anti-pharma. Of course, from time to time,
Comes in handy where needed.
an antibiotic might be needed, or God forbid, I hurt myself. I want an orthopedist to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. A few months back, I had hernia surgery. I needed the care of that general surgeon to help me. I'm not anti-pharma. I'm not anti-traditional medicine. I just think we've gone way too far. You can't watch a sporting event these days without some advertisement pushing some drug or some vaccine. And by the way, the reason why pharmas sponsor sports shows and other shows that we watch on TV has very little to do with them wanting to influence the consumer to use their product. That's what people think. They see a COVID vaccine or shingles or pneumonia vaccine advertised, and they think they're being advertised to, so they, the consumer, make a decision to get that vaccine or participate with whatever product. That's not actually the case. If you talk to pharma reps, if you talk to pharma business people, they won't say this on the record, but they'll say this off the record. The reason why they advertise is to influence the news desk. They don't want news programs on that network, CBS, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, etc. They don't want their editorial board and their news program to advertise things that are anti-pharma, that go against the narrative, that say things like, well, maybe, just maybe, giving a kid vaccinations within 2 days of birth is not a good thing.
It's same day now.
It is same day. They get vitamin K within a couple hours of being born.
And Hep
What's
B.
the reason for the vitamin K? What's the reason that?
The reason is to prevent a very rare condition known as hemolytic anemia of the newborn. And that's not a good thing. That occurs mostly with traumatic births. But if you pull up the skirt under vitamin K, we should actually do this. I should have brought it in. And you look up, if you're listening to this, please don't believe me. Do your own research. Google vitamin K package insert, vitamin K package insert, and read it. And there's a black box warning on the vitamin K package insert. A black box warning is the highest level of warning that the FDA puts in a package insert, short of pulling a product from the market.
That's like the step before.
It's like, oh my gosh, we need to warn anybody who's using this, any consumer, any physician, because this potentially has real danger. We're not going to pull it from the market yet, but we're going to put out this warning. And there are multiple drugs that have black box warnings. Vitamin K is one of them. And it says something like, caution, using this intravenously or intramuscularly can lead to a whole bunch of problems, including death. And the American Pediatric Association recommends every newborn child born in the United States receive an intramuscular injection of vitamin K within 2 hours of birth to prevent the rare complication of hemolytic anemia of the newborn. I think that's a mistake.
Jeff, is that different from vitamin K2?
Oh, very different.
People take with their D3, because people take D3 with K2 now.
Yeah, vitamin D is a whole nother topic. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. And if you choose to take it, there's some questions about whether we should routinely be prescribing vitamin K. That's a whole nother story. But if you take vitamin K as a supplement, vitamin
K2.
D3 as a supplement, you should also take it with the K vitamins, because then it helps as a result of the calcium metabolism.
Yeah.
It helps that calcium go into the bones where we
Instead
want
of
it,
the
and not
arteries.
into the arteries. That's correct. But vitamin K as an injection is very, very different. So again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing this.
There's uses for it.
But what
just
I'm
not
saying
this.
is that every parent, as they go through, and every mom as she goes through her pregnancy, should be told about informed consent. Hey, I want to tell you, this is the recommendation of the hospital. You should be aware of the black box warning. These are the reasons why we think the benefits outweigh the risk, if that's the case, and let the mom make the decision. That's not the way it happens. And also within 2 days of birth, they push hepatitis B, be like boy.
And what's the other one they also put on the eyes?
They put antibiotic ointment in the eyes. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing any of those things, but what we should be doing is giving informed consent. So,
Jeff, you bring
during
up a really good topic, because I mean, we've had this discussion about vaccines for kids and what amount is good, what amount is not good. And there's kind of a divide down the aisle. You have the ones that are just like absolutely no vaccine, and then the ones that are like, let's get a ton of vaccines. What's the thought process between the two, and what would you recommend? Like kind of just down the middle, what is a good amount of vaccines to get and which ones you really should get, which
Right.
ones are overkill?
That's a great question. What's important to me is not whether you should or you shouldn't, but that you received informed consent.
Okay.
And I wrote a book recently, co-authored a book called Unavoidably Unsafe: Childhood Vaccines Reconsidered, with my co-author, Ed Geer, who's an Ivy League trained emergency room physician, now retired. We wrote this book to be a guidebook for parents, grandparents, anybody that's interested in the childhood vaccine schedule. So I'm often accused of being anti-vax. I'm not. I'm pro-informed consent. Every Friday on my social media, RX for Liberty, RX4, spelled FOR Liberty, I read a package insert from a vaccine or a drug, and I try to educate people, not to take it or not take it, but so they can make an informed decision. In our book, by the way, we have a section about the questions you should ask your pediatrician or primary care doctor who's going to give you the vaccine before you allow them to put a vaccine in your child. Simple questions like, hey, doc, have you actually read the package insert for this product? I'll guarantee you 95% of the time the answer is no. And I hadn't read any package inserts up until a few years ago, in part because the package inserts are very difficult to read. First of all, they're like
Fucking writings about.
they're like an 8-point font, and my reading glasses aren't even strong enough, so you can print them out in bigger print, whatever. And they're written very science-y. So if you're not a technical reader or writer, you don't understand half the crap that's in the package insert.
What was your journey? What led you down this path of like making sure everyone's well informed?
And by the way, I have 2 adult kids. They were fully vaccinated. They were fully vaccinated because I didn't know any better. I was taught the same thing that medical students are taught now. Vaccines are safe and effective. There is no correlation or causation between vaccines and autism. That's bullshit. It's not true. So parents need to have informed consent. So I taught myself how to read the package inserts.
And what you said you've been doing medical, you're a doctor for over 30 years.
Correct.
So in your 30-year career, when did the light bulb kind of turn on and go, maybe I should just read a little bit more into this?
Vaccine injured children.
How long ago was this?
Oh, I'd say it was about a year or so before COVID.
So about 2019?
That's about right.
That's when the light bulb kind of went off.
I had patients in my practice, and they came in and their kids were vaccine injured. At least that was the claim of the parents. Of course, my initial reaction was,
Not
yeah,
possible.
come on. It's a coincidence. There's something else going on and so forth. But when I saw it over and over again,
what did you
it
see?
made a difference.
What was the injury that you were seeing?
Autism, new onset autism, almost immediately following a particular vaccine. Severe anaphylactic allergic reaction, almost immediately following a vaccine. These are some of the things I saw
Over and over again?
Over and over
Isn't
and over
it
again.
Also true. I think it's over 90% of SIDS cases are vaccine related.
That's correct. Then what really transformed my life was during COVID. I needed a new medical assistant, and I put out on social media that I was looking for a like-minded medical assistant. And there was this gal who came to work for me. Her name is Stephanie. She was fired from Kaiser after a 17-year career as a medical assistant. Why was she fired? Because she said no thank you to the COVID vaccine. And they said, all right, well, then we're going to need to test you every day.
Yeah.
And she said, why exactly? We don't test healthy people. We test people that are sick to find out what's wrong. So no, you're not testing me, and you're not sticking that Q-tip up my nose that has been sterilized with ethylene oxide. Ethylene oxide is a vapor that's used to sterilize many things that we use in medicine, and it causes cancer. And so you're not recurrently sticking every day a Q-tip up my nose. So they put her on administrative leave initially, and ultimately they let her go. And by a coincidence of mutual friends, she ultimately came to work for me. She worked for me for almost a year. And during the time she worked for me, she questioned everything I did. A patient who would come in with one day of a sore throat that wanted a Z-Pak, and she said, Barke, why are you, what? One day? And why are you prescribing an antibiotic that's going to destroy their gut bacteria and likely offer them no benefit because probably what they have is a viral illness? She was smart. I'm like, I don't know.
So you were just kind of in the routine of like, let's just regular playbook, come in, what do you need? Z-Pack,
Yes.
here you go.
And then children would come in for a Wellchild check. We should talk about what is that, a Wellchild check?
Which I was going to ask.
Yeah, I was like,
So they would come in for a Wellchild check, and Stephanie would say, have you read the package insert? They're coming in to get a DPT, MMR, IPV, injectable
vaccines.
polio vaccines.
Yeah.
Have you read the package insert? I'm like, what? What do you mean? Have you read the package insert? You're about to put these chemicals in this patient's body. I'm like, nah, I've glanced at them, not really. Let me show you what they say. And she would print out the package insert. She had some experience. She had taught herself how to review these things. You guys don't know this, but every single package insert for a vaccine, the FDA approves these package inserts, and they are organized in a way that is consistent package insert to package insert. And there's a section in every one. Again, you're listening to this. Please don't believe me. Google this. Section 13.1, vaccine package insert. Don't believe me. Look at it. Every single package insert, section 13.1 says, I'm paraphrasing, this vaccine has not been tested to see if it causes cancer. This vaccine has not been tested to see if it interferes with reproductive health. So we're putting a chemical, regardless of what you feel about these vaccines, good or bad or indifferent, we're putting them into our children's bodies
at a very young age.
Have not been tested to see if they potentially can cause cancer or potentially could interfere with their reproductive health. Now, fast forward and time out and put that on the back burner. And now you see talk all the time in the media, in social media, health influencers about declining male fertility, about sperm counts that are down, testosterone that's down, difficulty with infertility, but we never connect the two.
Jeff, let me ask you a question. Out of the population that's the kids that are being vaccinated right now, what percentage would you say they're actually getting out of, I don't know, let's say 10 million kids that are getting vaccinated, right? A year? What's the number?
I don't know what the number is, but it's probably more than that.
Okay, let's say 25 million kids a year are getting vaccinated. Out of the 25 million, what percentage would you say are getting injured from the vaccines? Or do we not even know?
We don't even know because we're not allowed to study it. Why aren't we allowed to study it? Because Big Pharma won't allow it. The
Based on your
vaccine companies
experience
won't allow it.
Of your patients that you're seeing.
Let me put it this way. What percentage of children in the United States have chronic illness?
A majority.
A majority.
What kind of chronic illness are you seeing?
Asthma, allergic rhinitis, autism at the extreme, gut disorders, eczema, all kinds of diabetes.
Even just runny noses constantly.
Correct. That's correct. Peanut allergies and other allergies as well. I'm not here saying that there's a direct causation.
Yeah.
There's definitely a correlation. And the reason why we can't precisely prove causation is we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to actually study it. There is so much money involved in the vaccine industry. Every new vaccine that comes to the market is a $1 billion with a B dollar annuity to that vaccine company. They don't have to advertise. The CDC does that for them. Primary care doctors, pediatricians advertise for them in the form of Wellchild checks. The pharmacies advertise for them. You can't walk into a CVS, Rite Aid, Walmart, etc., without seeing and walk near the pharmacy. And you'll see advertisements on the wall. Get your shingles vaccine, update on your pneumonia vaccine, get your flu shot, get your COVID shot. The triple-demic is coming. These products are free with most health insurance. That's the way they advertise. The vaccine companies are immune from all liability. Most people don't realize this. Back in the mid-1980s, unfortunately, Ronald Reagan signed an act that gave blanket immunity to the vaccine companies. Back in the day, maybe 6 to 8 to 10 vaccines injections were required. Now, here in the great state of California, to graduate high school, you will have received approximately 75 injections of some sort of vaccine that is mandated.
So let me ask you this. So right now, 75 vaccines are mandated by the time you're graduating. When I grew up I was born in 79. So what about then? Well, how many vaccines was I required?
Listen, I was born in 62. And for me, I got all the usual vaccines, but it was
just how many?
It was like 8, maybe.
I remember when I got chickenpox, my mom brought my sister near me so she would get chickenpox just to build the immunity for it. And I remember in like the early 80s, anyone
Everybody
that got
just
sick,
got it
you
together.
just brought your kid over. You're like, let me get them sick
Yeah,
now.
and now
that was the vaccine.
And pharma created the chickenpox vaccine. Why'd they do that? Because they could, and they didn't have any liability. So if you're injured from a vaccine today, you have no recourse against
how would
the
you know
company.
if you're how would you know if you're
Well, you
injured?
probably wouldn't, because if you go into a typical pediatrician with symptoms following the vaccine, they would say it's just friggin' coincidence or something else going on. Don't worry about it, and we'll see you in 2 months for your next Wellchild check.
How do you fix? Well, I guess with COVID, I know Brian and I went to Mexico. We got because my understanding is when you get a vaccine, the vaccine has heavy metals in it to get it absorbed in your body, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking mercury. What heavy metals are inside vaccines?
Aluminum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Formaldehyde's also in there, which isn't a heavy metal.
Correct. So
And this isn't like a guesswork. This is
No,
in the
it's
ingredient.
listed on the package.
It's right on the package insert. It tells you what the incipient and what the adjuvant. An adjuvant is a chemical that's purposely added to the vaccine to stimulate your body's immune system against whatever the viral, if it's a virus, the viral particle is in the vaccine. So when you get Bobby Kennedy Jr. in studio on your podcast, that is a great question to ask him. What are we going to do about it? How do we prevent chronic disease in our children? How do we assure that the vaccines that we're giving our kids are actually safe and effective? Not a single childhood vaccine, not a single childhood vaccine was tested by randomized controlled trials against an inert placebo like saline. How could that
AKA it
be?
was never tested.
How could that be? Because the FDA requires a much different level of scrutiny for vaccines coming to market than they do with drugs. Drugs require extensive testing, a couple, 3 years to get a new drug on the market. Vaccines, not so much.
So these vaccines, they have a delivery method which has heavy metals in it. So
Correct.
if you've got a ton of these vaccines already and you have a lot of heavy metals in your body, what would you recommend for someone that wants to go and get these heavy metals out?
Yeah, the first rule of holes. When you're in one, stop digging.
Okay.
So stop putting toxic waste into your body to start with. See a holistic, integrative, naturopath, primary care doctor, whoever that understands how to do proper detoxes with you, how to identify that there may be a problem, how to test for heavy metals.
What test would you recommend for a heavy metal test?
There's a variety of tests, from urine to saliva to hair. You can test for aluminum. You can test for other heavy metals based on symptoms.
So is there some sort of a like a tell that you can tell that you checked to see if you have like heavy metal or toxicity? Well, maybe you have brain fog or you have.
Sure. Start with symptoms. So obviously, if somebody is feeling well most of the time, I'm not too worried about it. If somebody comes into my practice with chronic symptoms and we can't otherwise quite figure it out.
Like what?
Fatigue, brain fog, recurrent rashes, gut
rashes
problems.
all over the body?
Sure, absolutely. Then I start thinking outside the box that it's not something that I can easily identify by a blood test to look at their thyroid or do they have diabetes, etc. I start thinking outside of the box. I do tests to look at gut health.
What tests do you do?
There are several that are on the market. It depends on the individual. There's a test called the GI map that is very good.
What does that tell?
It looks at your gut bacteria, basically. It looks at the good and the bad bacteria and whether they are in balance.
What's another test you would recommend?
There are a variety of genetic tests as well to look at your stool to identify the what's the right word? The biodiversity that you have in your gut. But before we do tests, we try to get a person to correct how they live their life. Are they eating clean? Are they putting aluminum under their arms? Are they putting fluoride in their mouth? Toothpaste is such a stupid, silly thing. If you look at a typical toothpaste, Crest, Colgate, whatever you like to use,
fluoride,
and you read the label on the toothpaste tube, it will say something like, every toothpaste tube that has fluoride in it, it'll say something like, call the poison control or your doctor if you accidentally consume more than is designed to brush your teeth. It's like, what?
I've tried cutting out fluoride and I've told this, I know it makes you stupid having fluoride. Like it literally lowers your IQ.
Well, chronically for sure.
Yeah. But every time I've cut out fluoride, my teeth start hurting.
Oh, come on.
It starts getting yellower. And I'm like, God,
this is why This is
I
why
need
my
to-
daughter has never seen fluoride.
I know, and she has cavities.
That's
so-
from
Kitty
yeah,
milk.
that's from
But-
kitty milk.
But like, what's a good alternative? Because I've tried no fluoride
Well, you can-
toothpaste,
you
and
can
it
make-
just doesn't work.
Well, you can taper yourself off of it, I guess, if you want, but you can make your own toothpaste.
So
or
what I've
do it
been doing
yourself.
now is I have 2 days no fluoride, 1 day fluoride, 2 days no fluoride, and then I'm like, let me go to Mexico, detox my body with like get out all the
Sure.
whatever I can. Just but the aluminum under the armpit, yeah, that's been
Well, the problem is there's not just fluoride in your toothpaste, there's fluoride in your drinking water.
well, I've filtered water and I'm careful with that.
Well, most people aren't, and they don't realize if you're drinking tap water, you're drinking government water,
So,
and it's poison.
What are the side effects of having fluoride?
Fluoride is a neurotoxin.
What does it do?
It can make you stupid.
How much lower? Like, let's say your IQ is 120. How much lower will it make
Well,
you?
Macon, you're so smart. Macan, sorry. Oh man, edit that
Fluoride.
out.
There's
Macan.
fluoride in that water.
That's right. You're so smart that you can afford a few IQ point drop. But
Okay.
I don't. Nobody knows for sure. But recent studies have showed that the chronic use of fluoride can actually lower your IQ.
What type of studies? Because what happens is when you go on social media and you make a claim, and there's the crazy ones that go, no, this is not correct, blah, 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 blah. What studies can we point to say this is an independent, peer-reviewed study that definitively says, or close to definitively says, that fluoride does
Yeah,
lower
I
IQ?
can't cite the study for you, but they're
Where
out
would
there.
someone go to look it up?
Oh, you could just Google search it, or nowadays you can go on ChatGPT and ask and say, are there any contemporaneous scientifically valid studies that point to the chronic use of fluoride is lowering IQ? Just do that.
Is that the
Do
main
that
thing?
ChatGPT study.
I mean, it's a pretty big deal, but lowering IQ is one of the main. Are there any other side effects?
Are there
of
any other
fluoride?
side effects of fluoride? Oh, sure. It's just not healthy for you. I don't know why, American Dental Association back in the whenever started adding fluoride to drinking water, and it's a mistake. And it's not just fluoride that's in drinking water. It's also chlorine. There's heavy metals. If you've ever repiped your home and you've looked at the inside of one of those pipes that your water goes through, it's disgusting.
What filters would you recommend for people to have to?
Any filter is better than no filter. Reverse osmosis is the best. And
That's pretty expensive, though. It's like
it's really not.
$350 for an RO.
reverse osmosis systems, like
$350.
installed under your sink, is like $2,000.
No, you can do it yourself for $350.
There's a company that I use. This is the one and of course I'm an affiliate with it. If you go on my Instagram, RX for Liberty, there's a discount code, whatever. It's called
How much is the discount code?
Aquatru. I don't remember, 15% or something, whatever. But if you just go on Aquatru, they make a countertop reverse osmosis system. It's got 3 filters. It's got a carbon filter to remove all the big stuff. It's got a reverse osmosis filter that removes everything else.
And what does that system cost?
And then it has a filter that if you want it to, we can talk a little bit about this, it will alkalinize the water and put minerals back into it for taste. I don't know, it's $400, maybe.
Well, what about your
$500.
shower head when you're taking a shower?
Yep, you need that too.
Is there a shower adapter for
They
it?
don't make one, but there's a lot of them just on Amazon, just
They're
a
like
basic
40
shower
bucks.
filter. That's
Mhm.
right. Because if you get in the shower and you turn it on, who doesn't like a nice hot shower first thing in the morning, and your pores open up
Oh, yeah,
now
and you're
flooding,
steaming.
All that
flooding
gas.
your body with chlorine and fluoride and whatever else is in the water, that's not good for you either.
So same as the steam room in a gym, right?
Yeah.
Right. As a matter of fact, Gary Brecka, social media influencer, great guy. I haven't met him yet, but if you know him, send him my way. Get him in studio. He did this study. He had a guy, a friend of his, take 2 glasses of tap water.
Oh yeah, I saw that when you put the
He
finger.
put one hand in the tap water, the other hand it stood alone. 5 minutes in the tap water, pulls it out. He runs over to like a pool supply company and he gets a chlorine test strip. The water that the hand was in has no chlorine. The water that the hand wasn't in, same water out of the tap, is filled with chlorine. Message is your body readily absorbs the chlorine. Now, no big deal if you do it once in a while. If you're out of town and you take a shower in a hotel, no big deal. But day in and day out, showering in chlorinated water with fluoride and other janky ingredients just isn't healthy. I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole of trying to clean up your lifestyle and environment, and don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Just do a few little things.
Jeff, I've heard that your body is like a cup of water, and the water represents the amount of toxicity your body can hold.
Sure.
And everyone's got a different limit. But
Sure.
once that water gets to the top and spills over, that's when you get sick.
Your body has remarkable detox abilities. So even those of us that can't do a lot of the things that I recommend still can be okay if their detox capabilities are good.
How do you improve your detox capabilities?
We naturally detox by 4 mechanisms. We poop, we pee, we breathe, we sweat. To the extent that you can maximize that, you've got a fighting chance.
How many times a day should you be pooping?
That's a good question. At least once. I know we didn't come on to talk about poop. If you're not pooping every day, fix that.
What's the best way of fixing that?
Fix your diet, fix your gut, eat clean, get plenty of fiber, make sure you're not putting poison into your body, stop eating processed foods, read the ingredients. Again, on Fridays, I often read a food label to show what's in these foods. And it's disgusting what we put in our body, from seed oils and artificial flavors and high fructose corn syrup, et cetera, et cetera. It's horrible. So we need to fix how we eat. So poop every day. Make sure you're peeing at least every couple hours. If you're not drinking,
what color should your pee be?
Light yellow. If you're not drinking at least 64 ounces of some sort of purified water daily, you're probably dehydrated and not getting enough. Those 2 things to support detox. Sweat as often as you can. How do you sweat? Well, of course, exercise is one way, or go to a place that has a sauna. Dry sauna, I think, is better than wet sauna, but even wet sauna is good. Sweat your ass off, at least a couple, 3 days a week. That's another way that we detoxify. I mentioned breathing as well. We detoxify through our lungs. Do breath work. There's a lot of ways to do that. YouTube, breath work. It's a form of meditation and excellent for your health. So stop putting toxic ingredients into our body.
What are some toxic ingredients that you see most people eat and not even know?
Seed oils that are in packaged
Is that number one?
I think that's probably number one. Canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, rapeseed, grapeseed. These are all bad. These are all bad. They're in processed foods. Restaurants cook with them because they taste good. They're cheap. They extend the shelf life, and that's why companies use them. We're now starting to see a shift. There are some fast food places now that have shifted over to using beef tallow instead of canola oil. And that's a good thing. And it's in part because of people like you, your social media presence. You bring people to your audience that speaks the way I do. There are a lot of other social media influencers that people are learning from. We've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now in the head of HHS. HHS, Health and Human Services, is an umbrella organization under which sits the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, the National Institutes of Health, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So he is now starting to shed a light on some of these things as well. He recently asked the CDC to reopen the idea of studying, is there any correlation or causation between childhood vaccines and chronic illness and autism? And good for him. So he's enduring the incoming of calling him all kinds of names, including an anti-vaxxer, and that's fine. But now he's got a bully pulpit. He's got the controls of HHS with hundreds of thousands of employees. And I hope he reorients those programs to be more American people, health focused than big pharma profit focused. And I think we're getting there.
Going back to seed oils, can you tell us how bad is it for you and what does it actually do when you ingest seed oils?
The bottom line is they are inflammatory. They cause inflammation in your body.
Because of the omega-6, the high omega-6?
In part because of the omega-6s, sure. And we got on the seed oil path. There's a whole story about it, but we were told things that weren't true. We were told that saturated fat causes increased cholesterol. Increased cholesterol causes cardiovascular disease. Therefore, people should stop eating fat, and instead they should focus more on carbohydrates. Hence, in the 1980s, the Snackwell revolution, right? Snackwell was a company that came up with these cookies and products that had zero fat in it. And what did they replace it with? If you don't eat fat, what are you going to replace it with? Sugar. Carbohydrates and sugar. So I'd say seed oils and sugar are probably the 2 most important items that people put into their body that are very unhealthy, that and tap water. If they did those 3 things, stop drinking tap water, stop eating seed oils.
Your coffee was probably made with tap water.
Stop consuming sugar. And by the way, as you
cinnamon
drink,
in here for anti-inflammatory,
which is excellent, in your plastic cup.
Well, again, Mexico. We got to go back to Mexico.
Time to go back to Mexico.
So
yeah, and stop consuming plastic. microplastics are terrible for us. And I'm kidding you, of course. Sometimes it's necessary, but you buy your big pallet of bottled water in the
And
plastic
leave it in the
containers.
car so it heats up.
You buy it at your warehouse store. I won't name any names, but we've all gone there, and you see the big giant pallets piled up on the side of the building, sitting there in the sun.
Cooking.
You buy whatever. You take a bottle of water, you take a few sips, you put it in your car, you park your car. A few hours later, you get back into your car. Your car's been sitting there in the sun, and now you're drinking microplastics right out of that water bottle. So avoid that. So, I don't know if you're listening or seeing, but, this is made out of ceramic. So whenever possible, use ceramic or glass. And do not ever, ever, ever put your leftover food in a plastic container and stick that thing in the microwave. That's the worst you can do.
What is that? Like, what is plastic or seed oils in your body? What do they do?
They cause toxicity. I think they lead to cancer. They lead to chronic
What type
illness.
of cancers do you think?
All kinds, as they get in our body and they just muck up our system. Our body was never designed to try to detoxify massive amounts of plastic in our body. They're synthetic, they're artificial, and our body does not like them. There's been recent studies at autopsy of Alzheimer's patients showing disproportionate amount of plastic in the brain of Alzheimer's patients compared to patients that don't have Alzheimer's disease.
Is there a detox to get rid of plastics? And
yeah, most importantly, first rule of holes, right? When you're in one, stop digging. So eliminate the plastic as best you can from your life. Get rid of those plastic Tupperware-like containers. Buy glass, buy ceramic. Don't put plastic in the microwave whenever possible. Don't drink out of the plastic water bottles. Use glass. There are companies that still put water in glass. My favorite is Mountain Valley. They use only glass for their water. Comes in different flavors, sparkling, flat, etc. So just make some subtle shifts, and over time you'll get healthier and healthier.
Jeff, I know I've heard this online, and Brian and I have talked about this, that the average health span of men is about 73 to 75, but the average health span of men is 63. And so from 63 to 73 or 75, these are chronic illness years that you're just going in and out of the hospital.
Yeah.
What can you do earlier on to change that trajectory so that when you're older, you're not...
Get rid of fluoride.
Get rid of a lot of things. Learn how to master your health. I've got a new radio show that I just started calling Mastering Your Health. I just spent an hour talking about these types of things, teaching people, encouraging them, helping them make just a little incremental step.
Which would be what?
Well, first, look around your house and let's see if we can get rid of some of the plastic that you normally use. Don't use your reheated, you go to a restaurant, you get leftovers, then the next day you take that plastic container, you put it in the microwave. Stop doing that. Transfer it to a glass container or ceramic container, heat it up in that. Ideally, you're not going out to eat too much because then it's hard to control what you eat. Drink better water. Get rid of the fluoride in your toothpaste. Get rid of the aluminum in the antiperspirant that you're using. Why would we want to stop ourselves from sweating, by the way? It's such an unhealthy thing to do.
Because of the smell. That's usually...
Well, then you can use deodorant, which is basically types of perfume, but be careful
Most
about
people
that.
might not know that there's a big difference, like antiperspirant versus deodorant.
Right. Antiperspirant stop us from sweating. It's aluminum that they use, aluminum sulfate that goes under our arms that blocks our pores from sweating. And then there's some sort of perfume to make us smell good. So get rid of the antiperspirant. If you need perfume under your arms, I get it. But ideally, you wouldn't even use that. Many of the perfumes that we use, the lotions and things that we apply to our body are also toxic. They have endocrine disrupting chemicals in them. Get an app. I use the app. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, called Yucca. I think it's Yucca. And when you're at the supermarket or you're shopping, you can scan items and it'll give you a score as far as whether it's healthy or unhealthy. It's not perfect, but it's a good tool to use. You can also type in things. I want to buy a non-tox shaving cream. So you plug in shaving cream and it'll list different products in order of their healthiness, or shampoo or whatever products that you use. So just learn how to make some changes, educate yourself, stop looking at advertisements on the TV and in magazines, and you need to start taking care of yourself and learning to master your health.
I recently took a test that measured my omega-3 to my omega-6 levels.
Sure.
And it was 14-1.
Yeah.
And I read that on the optimal level for your omega-3 to omega-6 levels is 3-1.
Yes.
So that you're not inflamed.
Yeah, there's a test that I do routinely on all my patients, and it's called a fatty acid profile, or an omega check, I think is the brand name. And it measures all your omega-3s, omega-6s, et cetera, in your body. I think in that panel, the most important test is the ratio of arachidonic acid, AA, which is an omega-6 inflammatory fatty acid, to EPA. EPA is arguably one of the most important omega-3 fatty acids. So AA to EPA ratio, bad divided by good. You want that somewhere between 1.5 and 3. To get there, you need to eat a lot of omega-3 fatty acids.
Or take a lot of supplements. I'm taking about 4 grams a day.
Yeah, me too. Now, the problem is, well, why don't I just eat a bunch of fish? On
Then you get
paper, that's
mercury.
the right thing to do. But our oceans are so polluted with mercury and PCBs and other contaminants and microplastics that it's hard to do. If you're newly pregnant and you go in to see an obstetrician for your first visit, one of the things that they will routinely tell a newly pregnant person, newly pregnant woman, you actually have to say that, newly pregnant woman, right?
It depends where
Depends on where we are.
we are in the country.
What they will tell that woman is, amongst the other things, how to wear seatbelts, don't smoke, alcohol consumption, caffeine, and so forth. They'll say, don't eat fish more than about once a week. Well, why? Because mercury is toxic to a growing baby. So you don't want to give that baby mercury. And many of our fish from the ocean have mercury, even wild caught. So if it's not good for a pregnant woman to consume that stuff, is it good for us to be eating sushi 3-4 times a week? Right across the street, you have a wonderful sushi place. I won't mention it by name. And I don't know that that's a healthy thing to eat. I mean, I like it like the next person, but I try not to consume fish on a regular basis.
I was told that you have smaller fish if you're going to have fish, not like swordfish. Swordfish is a larger fish, so it has a lot more concentration of mercury. But the smaller fish like sardines have less mercury. Is that true?
And they have healthier oils in it, and only wild caught. Never eat farm raised fish. I don't particularly like fish, so I don't eat a lot. I lean in a much more carnivore-like nutrition strategy for myself. That's what I recommend to my patients.
One thing I wanted to ask you about that. So I have friends and family members that have high cholesterol.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, you got to go on this pill.
Sure.
And I'm like, please don't go on the pill. Just cut out carbs. Yeah. And I'm like, just cut out carbs. Is that true? If you cut out carbs when you eat food and your insulin is high, your body starts storing fat, doesn't start burning fat because you have insulin presence in your blood, right? And you want to have your insulin as low as possible. So it just breaks up all the fat that you have floating in your blood.
Sure. Two separate things. First of all, do we even care about cholesterol?
Well, to a certain point, it's the small cholesterol that we care about, right? Of the not normal HDL or LDL cholesterol, we're talking maybe about the triglycerides in there. If you have high triglycerides and it's a small one.
Sure. So the first part is, I think we've been sold a bill of lies that we should worry about cholesterol. I don't think cholesterol is all that important. There's very little association between cholesterol and cardiovascular disease. I think much more important than measuring and worrying about somebody's cholesterol is worrying about inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. That's what causes cardiovascular disease.
So are we going back to the omega-6 to omega-3? Is that the inflammation?
Yes, that's one measure of inflammation. There's others as well. So I no longer prescribe statin drugs, Crestor, Lipitor, et cetera, to my patients. I think they cause more harm than good. And by the way, this is not intended for you to use this information to make a decision about your health. Just general information, always check in with your own doctor. But in my practice, I don't prescribe statins. Patients that come to me on statins, I try to get them off the statin. I focus on inflammation. There's a variety of markers. The AA-EPA ratio, the fatty acid profile, is one marker. There are a lot of others. HS-CRP, C-reactive protein, is another. LP-PLA2, lipoprotein phospholipase A2,
and you do all these tests.
There's about 5 inflammatory markers that I look at. And then metabolic health. Do you have insulin resistance? What is your hemoglobin A1C? That's the best measure for diabetes. The lab test paper will say, well, if you're about 5.6, you're good. I don't agree with that. There's a difference between being normal and optimal.
Mine's
I try to
4.7.
optimize. I want that test somewhere between, that's excellent, somewhere between 4.9 and 5.1. So 4.7 tells me that you don't binge on sugar and carbs, and that's excellent. Then we want to see your fasting insulin. Insulin is the hormone produced by our pancreas in response to sugar and foods that turn into sugar. We need it. It's important. We can't live without insulin. The lab will tell you that if you're below 12, you're good. I don't agree with that. I want your insulin, your fasting insulin level to be around 5 or even below. And then your fasting blood sugar or glucose. The lab will say if you're less than 100, you're fine. I don't agree with that. I want it to be less than 90.
I'm 87.
Yeah. So yeah, so you're at least on those markers, your metabolic health is very good. So that's what I focus on, not cholesterol. And I think we've made a huge mistake. Statins are a $1 trillion industry in the United States. They're the #1 prescribed drug in the world. I think it's one of the biggest frauds hoisted upon the people that has ever been done. And this started many, many years ago with Ansel Keys' 7 countries food study, where he cherry-picked the results and came to the conclusion that saturated fat is bad for us. The Food and Drug Administration and the USDA created this upside-down food pyramid where we were encouraged to eat more carbs and less fat. I think that's a mistake. And I think a carnivore-like diet is a healthier diet. What I tell my patients when they come in, listen, if you feel good, really good, most of the time, you probably don't need to change much. But the patients that come see me don't feel good, and they need to make some changes. And we start by doing extensive blood tests. We look at their diet. I ask them to bring a food log. Sometimes I'll have them wear one of those CGM's, continuous glucose monitors.
Those things are scary.
Because that gives them immediate feedback just for a short period of time. I don't want to turn them into a 5G tower, but I think it's really good feedback because most people don't realize. I had a patient just the other day, wore a CGM, and he goes, I couldn't believe it. I usually eat a bowl of Cheerios with some sliced bananas almost every morning, and it spiked my blood sugar. Who knew that eating grains and a fruit that has high in sugar would spike his blood sugar? But he needed this feedback to see that, and he made changes. Now he switched over to, cottage cheese instead of, Cheerios and whatever, and it's made a difference in his metabolic health.
And Brian and I are big into longevity. And, Peter Attia and David Sinclair and Gary Brecka.
Sure.
These are some of the guys.
Dave Asprey.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about NAD and some of the things that NMN, NR, resveratrol, NAD, these things?
I think they're great, but I think for the average person, there are more important interventions in figuring out what's the right supplement for them to be on. Mm-hmm. But if you're already dialed in, and like you are, you've got a hemoglobin A1C of 4.7, your fasting insulin is very low, your blood sugar's in the 70s. Wow, that's fantastic. So after you get the basics, the foundation of the pyramid right, then you can start looking, are there other things I can do from a longevity standpoint to maximize my health? And by the way, we haven't talked about this, and I just want to mention this because it's important. Why do I care?
Well, it's from 63 to 73 that you don't want to.
Why do I want somebody to be healthier?
So you're not on pills and
I don't want them on pills, and I want them to be happy, and I want them to feel good. But I've come to this recently. The reason why I want people to be healthy is not for the sake of health. I want them to be healthy so they can serve whatever God's purpose is in their life in a better way. That's why I want them to be healthy, not simply for the sake of health. Of course, I want them to be healthy. I don't want them to be sick. It's miserable to be sick. I hate hospitals and hospitalizations and unnecessary things like that. But at the end of the day, we're here for about 15 minutes. And I want people to figure out what their God-given purpose is in life and be able to fulfill that. And the best way to fulfill that is by keeping their body, mind, and soul healthy. I've heard it said, somebody said it, maybe it was you, I don't know. I listen to so many influencers. They said, when you're ill, that's all you can think about is being ill and how to fix it. And your life is just consumed by your illness. When you feel good, now you have an opportunity to do so many other things, hopefully that's in line with whatever your higher power belief system is. So that's ultimately what I'm trying to accomplish, is help people get healthy so they can serve their God-given purpose.
As far as the role of exercise in helping people, what would you say is?
It's huge as well. Too many of us sit most of the day behind a desk looking at a blue screen. So unhealthy for us. 100 years ago, we'd spend 95% of our day outdoors. Now we spend 95% of our days indoors. So whether you can get a stand-up desk and one of those little rolly things that you stand on, or go for frequent walks, go outside, get in nature. I try to exercise every single day. Not always successful, but I try to get some sort of movement. I'm very blessed that my office is in Corona del Mar. I literally live a 10-minute walk to the beach. So at least 3-4 days a week, I'm at the beach, shoes and socks off, walking in the sand, walking in the water, grounding, exposing myself to sunshine. We've been taught that sunshine is incredibly unhealthy. We should protect our skin. We should wear sunscreen. We should avoid the sun. That the opposite is true. I don't think you can actually achieve optimal health if you're not getting almost daily sunshine. That's how important it is. So exercise plays a huge role. You don't have to go to the gym for 4 hours, but you should try to do something every single day to move your body, to get outdoors, to ground, to be in nature. I think that's important.
You mentioned sunshine, and I know Brian and I talked about this. Seed oils in your body is what causes cancer when you're exposed to the sun.
In part, that's correct.
Okay, so if you're purging yourself of seed oils and not taking in any seed oils, do you need sun protection when you're out in the sun?
You don't. I don't wear sunscreen. Now, if I'm going to be out in the sun for an extended period of time, out on a boat, or I'm going to spend the day at the beach, of course, I'll protect myself, wear a hat, long sleeves if necessary. If you have to wear sunscreen, choose very, very carefully. Get some sort of zinc-based tallow product.
Can you make your own?
You can make your own if you're brave enough to do so. There's do-it-yourself recipes where you can even buy this stuff, get organic zinc and tallow and mix it together, but then you don't know what the SPF factor is.
And you're going to smell like...
But there are a lot of commercially available products that combine tallow and zinc. There's a company out of San Diego called Van Man. There's a product locally in Orange County. They make a product for me, and it's called Dandy, D-A-N-D-E Natural. Dandy from the root name dandelion. So she makes a great product. There's one she made for me called RX for Liberty Peppermint Tallow. It's great. It has a little peppermint. I use it all the time. So find a zinc-based tallow product for sunscreen. Don't use that tropical stuff that you all know the advertisements. I won't mention it. That stuff is so unhealthy. It's endocrine disrupting chemicals. It's not good for you. But most importantly, if you eat clean, your skin is much less likely to get burnt. You're much less likely to develop skin cancer. Interestingly, if you look at the graphs of when sunscreen was first developed, and I can't remember this, I want to say maybe in the 1950s, when sunscreen was first developed, there's a curve going up that shows dramatic increase in skin cancer as a result of the advent of sunscreen. So people started applying these chemicals, getting less sun, and I think as a result, that's in part contributed to chronic illness.
And I can see sitting next to you that you have pretty good skin. What would you recommend? I know it's the nutrition that you take, but anything that you do for your skin to have great skin?
It starts with good nutrition. So our skin, and when we have rashes, when we have manifestations on our skin, that's a symptom. So when somebody gets eczema or psoriasis, that's a symptom. That's not a disease. There's something else going on in your body that your skin is reacting that way. So you need to figure that out. Gut health, liver health, etc. So I eat pretty clean most of the time. I rarely eat sugar.
What's your diet like?
It's a carnivore diet. So I eat a lot of healthy meat. Healthy, what do I mean by that? Grass-fed, grass-finished, organic, hormone-free, antibiotic-free. And if you can find it, it's hard. Vaccine-free meat as well. You got to know the ranchers in order to get that.
What do you think about Wild Fork? Because we shop at Wild Fork.
I think it's a good product. Yeah, there are a lot of companies where you can order healthy meat. Bison if you like it, elk if you like it, whatever, healthy meat. And then if you can tolerate it, organ meat.
I love organ meat.
Now, most people won't eat it unless they're from some foreign country or whatever, because it's kind of disgusting.
Heart, liver,
yeah,
kidneys,
100%.
I'm not touching it.
If you don't eat organ meat, and I don't, then you can get organ meat supplements. My favorite is by Designs for Health called Organ Synergy. Paul Saladino, Carnivore Code guy, he has a company called Heart and Soil. He makes some great products as well. So healthy meat.
What's the benefit of organ meat?
It's one of the most nutrient-dense foods around if it's from a healthy animal. It's just filled with nutrients. So healthy meat, raw dairy. So I only drink raw milk. I've got a container of coffee here in my ceramic mug. It's organic coffee with raw milk. Eggs, as many as you want. If they're from a healthy chicken, organic, pasture raised, and organic. They have to be pasture raised. You need to be careful about the nomenclature. A very famous brand of organic pasture raised was busted that what they called pasture raised wasn't actually. If you have access to a farmer's market in your local town, go by there. Meet the people that are growing the things that you're eating so you know what they are.
Jeff, I'm a little bit afraid of farmers markets only because I've seen TikTok videos of people going to Costco, buying cakes and bringing them to farmers market and like selling
No, but
selling
the
them.
eggs you can tell because they still have the
I
poop
get
and
it.
all the nasty
There's a
stuff.
farmer's market in Corona del Mar, and I go there almost every Saturday. And I've gotten to know the people that are selling their produce.
Okay.
I've talked to the owners. How do you grow your stuff? And they tell me. The egg lady, she shows me a picture of her farms and the healthy chickens that she has, et cetera. So you got to know the people that you're,
don't just
buying
assume
from.
that you're at a farmer's
don't
market
don't
that you're
assume.
getting good stuff.
Yeah.
Go make
Because it could be resale.
Yep. And then organic fruit I also eat. I think it's important.
Why organic fruit? Is it because of the pesticides?
Because of the pesticides. And the organic labeling isn't perfect. I get that. Sometimes it's not accurate, but whenever possible, I try to buy organic from the farmers that I know that are growing the products that I'm
So
eating.
in the supermarkets, my mom actually taught me this. There's a 4-digit code on fruits and vegetables that you get. That 4-digit code, the higher the number is, the better it is, I guess.
Your mom may be smarter than me. I don't know. I'll have to check that out. But kind of to summarize your question of what do I eat? Healthy meat, raw dairy, organic pasture-raised eggs, organic fruit, and then if I need something sweet, raw honey. What isn't in that list? Vegetables. You're not going to get healthy by eating a giant salad every day. Also, you need to be very careful because some vegetables are very high in phytotoxins and oxalates and can be inflammatory. It's a book Dr. Gundry wrote called The Plant Paradox. Check it out. I'm not saying that you shouldn't eat vegetables. It's not the focus.
Which ones
of my
have
diet.
the highest?
Spinach,
Asparagus.
kale.
And I even heard spinach has, because it's been now the spinach we get now has such low iron in it that you have to eat like so much of it just to get enough iron.
Sure.
From the spinach.
Or grains as well. If you look at the label on grains, many of them will say enriched or fortified.
It's got folic acid in it.
Yeah. And when it says enriched or fortified, it sounds like a really nice word that this thing is healthier. It's actually unhealthy because it's been sprayed with added products like folic acid. Many of us can't break down folic acid.
You have the MTHFR.
Yeah.
mutation, right?
MTHFR, methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. It's estimated that maybe 50% of us have that genetic mutation. I do.
And what are the consequences of having too much folate because of that?
Your body can't handle it. It causes inflammation. You can measure that inflammation by your homocysteine level. Homocysteine level, the lab will say if it's below 12, you're good. We want that to be below 8. It's a 2-part solution if you're an MTHFR genetic mutation person like I am. Number 1, don't eat anything that says enriched or fortified. Number 2, take some sort of methylated B vitamin. There's a lot of good ones on the market. I take a product called Homocysteine Supreme by Designs for Health. Check out my Instagram if you want, RX for Liberty. There's more information there about it. Some sort of methylated B vitamin and avoid enriched or fortified grains. Then you got a fighting chance. Then you can watch your homocysteine level drop, hopefully be optimized down to 8 or below.
And would you recommend also taking methylated methylfolate? As
Correct.
a supplement to offset?
That's correct. Or a supplement called TMG, trimethylglycine. The idea is that methyl group is necessary for our body to take homocysteine, which is an important amino acid that it uses to create all kinds of other chemicals. If you don't have that methyl group, and if you're an MTHFR person, you don't have a lot of methyl groups and you end up with a high homocysteine. Homocysteine is one of the most inflammatory chemicals in our body. I've seen it as high as 18 to 20, sometimes even higher. People are incredibly inflamed, and it's corrected primarily with the right supplement and the right nutrition plan.
Got it. And methylation is basically your body not being able to convert the nutrients that you're taking if you're methylation, if it's not methylated, the vitamins.
That's correct.
So your body's not able to take that raw ingredient and put it to use.
All raw ingredients, in particular vitamins, our body doesn't use it in the form that we consume
Correct.
it. It has to be
Methylated.
It has to be methylated or converted into the useful ingredient. And if our body can't methylate it and convert it, it can't use it, and it causes all kinds of problems. So, ADD, depression, anxiety, sometimes insomnia sometimes can be a result, chronic cardiovascular disease. If you don't identify that elevated homocysteine in the MTHFR genetic problem, you're missing an opportunity to get healthier without much intervention.
Do you recommend for your patients to do the genetic testing to see which gene mutations they have and supplement based on that?
I do. Again, this is more complex. It's not the most important thing they can do.
In addition to everything else.
All my patients, we at least do the MTHFR genetic mutation. That's the basics. There are other ones as well, COMT, some other ones that Gary Barke talks about. His old company, 10X Health, did that. Function Health with
shit show right now.
I know. Function Health with Mark Hyman, he does that as well.
You like Function Health? They actually have a pretty interesting test. They test, I think, 100 biomarkers.
Yeah, I think it's for the test. It's reasonably priced. Mark Hyman is a physician. He's kind of the father of functional medicine. I don't agree with everything he talks about, but he's really smart.
I'm curious, for someone that's healthy that comes to your practice to get just their checkup, just to see where everything is, because a lot of times we might think we're healthy because we're taking the supplements, working out, eating clean, doing this, doing that, and then like I did my my inflammation test, and I saw my omega-6 to omega-3 ratios was out of whack, and I'm like, whoa, like I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Do you take clients like that, like just coming in to just get a checkup?
Yeah. We do a very extensive blood test that looks at 5 or 6 inflammatory markers and metabolic health, as well as the usual stuff. Thyroid function panel, not just a TSH, but you need to know what your T3 is, your reverse T3, your T4, and so forth. So it's not enough just to do your TSH. I know we're getting kind of esoteric. Mm-hmm. For men, I want to know what your free and total testosterone is. Too often we see even young men with very low testosterones, and we need to figure that out. With women, especially perimenopausal and postmenopausal, looking at hormones and using bioidentical hormones. I extensively use a local compounding pharmacist that works with me with my female patients, male patients too, and we talk about how to get on bioidentical hormones. I think most women, especially in the perimenopausal and postmenopausal time period, will benefit from bioidentical hormones, not synthetic hormones. The most common estrogen on the market is a product called Premarin. Where's that from? Well, the name Premarin comes from pregnant mare's urine. They get a horse pregnant, they take their urine, and they extract the estrogen from it. It's not bioidentical. I don't want to give a woman horse estrogen. So we can make estrogen, different forms of it. There's 3 different types of estrogen that a woman naturally makes. We can make that almost identical to the product that your body naturally makes, as well as progesterone. And it helps women feel better. It can improve heart health, brain health, longevity, etc. So I've become, as I learn more, a big fan of using bioidenticals with both my male and female patients.
Are bioidenticals like peptides? Similar to peptides?
No. Peptides is a whole nother discussion, and I use peptides as well. I think
Which ones do you use? Come on, Doc. Give us the gold.
BPC 157.
I love it.
A great peptide.
I use it too.
Tesamorelin, ipamorelin, I think are great peptides. Kisspeptin is a great peptide. There's a lot of them. It's the wild
What do you think about
peptides. So first of all, before we get into peptides, it's super important to know that not all peptides are actually legal. And so you need to be very careful. There's a battle.
Well, this is being filmed in Mexico. So, we got free reign. We spoke to the Mexican government.
Pass my tequila shot,
Yeah,
please.
we talked to the Mexican government. They said
there's an ongoing battle between the FDA and compounding pharmacies.
Well, the FDA snuffed it in 23.
That's
September
right.
29th.
And so there are some peptides that are being reintroduced as FDA approved.
Yeah, they're funky
and
names.
so forth. So I'm very careful about what I use and how I use it with patients.
Well, back in the day.
And the compounding
the day.
labs.
Well, that doesn't exist anymore.
And the compounding labs that we use.
I'm just
Don't-
curious,
don't
like
go
5
down-
years ago,
Don't go down that.
how MUTC was or
Don't
how
go down
BPC
that
157 was.
So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get lean, if you're trying to build muscle mass, if you're trying to improve your testosterone, growth hormone, and so forth, there's a whole way of stacking peptides to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. However, there are far more important things than injecting or eating peptides to help you lose weight, to help you do these things. If you don't have a clean diet, if you're not getting sunshine almost
You're
every
not
day,
disciplined.
if you're not sleeping well, if you're not getting 8 hours of sleep, if you're not managing your stress and doing all those kind of things, you're wasting your money sticking needles in your abdomen to give yourself peptides.
You actually mentioned another point. You were saying if your testosterone level is low. I know some guys that are in their 30s or 20s, they go to a men clinic and they're like, oh, they just put me on TRT. And I'm like, you're going to be on TRT for the rest of your life.
That's right. It's
like, you
it's
can't
a
just
terrible
stop.
idea. The first thing I do is to try to find out the why behind somebody's testosterone being low. Could be that they're on a statin. So if you're on a statin, Lipitor, Crestor, et cetera, that lowers your cholesterol, cholesterol is necessary for the production of almost every hormone in our body, including testosterone, including estrogen. I see it routinely. New patients that come in, they're 50, 60 years old, their free testosterone level is below normal. Like, how is that possible? They don't take good care of themselves. They eat like shit. They're overweight. They've got a lot of fat. Some of that testosterone gets aromatized into estrogen. So we need to stop the bombardment of their body. There are some basic things a man can do to rebuild testosterone naturally. Number 1, eat healthy meat. Number 2, lift weights. Number 3, proper hydration. Number 4, make sure your sleep and stress are being managed. Those are some of the basics. Number 5, eat organs or organ meat.
Which
so
organs?
Healthy. Well, Paul Saladino's company, Heart and Soil, he's got this really cool product called, it's a cute name, Whole Package.
So-
And for women, he's got one called Her Package. So the whole package for men, it includes beef testicles. Yeah, that's a thing. I know it's weird, but it's actually a thing.
I've had it.
Right. Now, I'm not going to.
barbecue with some salt. Look, liver, kidneys, heart. I mean, I eat
Gross.
everything.
Yeah, note to self, don't go over to your house for a barbecue. But you can get it in a supplement.
Yeah.
And I think it's I think, you know, and you can check this on Saladino's site, Heart and Soil, but it's testicles, liver, and blood, I think, in a supplement designed for men to boost libido and testosterone. And I think it's actually a thing. So if you're doing all those things and working really hard and then you're still not moving the needle,
Then we can talk about peptides.
then there's a role for peptides and or a role for actually testosterone replacement therapy.
20 to 30 male, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. What's a good testosterone range for guys? 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and so on.
Well, it depends on the lab, but I want their testosterone to be close to high normal for a young male. So typically that's free testosterone. You can measure total and free. Most of the testosterone in our body is bound to protein and isn't available to do whatever testosterone is supposed to do for us. It's the free testosterone that's the active form. So I always look at free testosterone. I want free testosterone to be just below the top of the normal range. Typically, that's right around 20. And if you're not there, then we work to get you there. If you're on the low end of normal, we try to work to fix it and try to answer the question, why is it low?
So for men that have low testosterone, what are the side effects? Besides
Fatigue.
the obvious.
Right. Fatigue, poor sleep, difficulty maintaining lean body mass, difficulty building muscle, of course, libido, erectile dysfunction, and so forth. It's not healthy for us men to have low and especially below normal levels of testosterone. It is not good for us. It's a problem for our heart. It's a problem for our brain. Of course, it's a problem for our libido, erectile functioning, etc. It is not a healthy way to function. If it's low, you should fix it. Fix it naturally, ideally, or work with a doctor that knows how to do it with either testosterone replacement or peptides.
What's so funny, bro?
He's like, let me take
I'm
some
taking
notes.
notes. I'm like,
I see the
yourself.
notes. I see the notes being taken.
Note
up.
to self, can we
Me.
transcribe this podcast, please?
Going back a little bit. I remember when we had our daughter, we did a home birth, and I'm friends with a lot of physicians
Sure.
around, and every single one said, "You're out of your fucking mind. You're going to kill your kid."
Yeah. My daughter did a home birth.
Best experience ever. And I got to lay back in my bed.
I know. Yeah. I think a home birth with a low risk patient is the right thing to do. If I were to have a baby now, it would 100% be a home birth with a properly trained midwife for a variety of reasons. One, the experience at most hospitals is very poor. First of all, they want to vaccinate you. They want to give you vitamin K, and they want to give you a hepatitis B shot almost immediately. Second, they want to take your baby and immediately formula feed you. They'll tell the mom, you need to rest. You just had a baby. We'll keep your baby in the newborn nursery. And while they're there, you just relax. We'll give them Similac or Enfamil
with
or whatever.
Some seed oils
with some seed oils. I did a post on this recently looking at the completely unhealthy products that are on the market to feed infants, all the commercial products, Similac, Enfamil,
There's only
etc.
one I know stateside that's actually clean, but it's not recommended from 0 to 12 months because it doesn't have a seed oil. And for it to be FDA approved, it has to have a seed oil.
Sure, there are do-it-yourself recipes and goat milk and cow milk formulas and so forth. So I think a home birth is the right thing to do. There are hospitals that are coming around to the request by more and more mothers that they want a different experience, that aren't pushing vaccines, that are allowing them to labor naturally. I mean, if you think about it, what is the most unnatural position to try to deliver a baby? A woman lying on her back with her feet up in the airs in stirrups. Like, who invented that? Male obstetricians for the convenience of the doctor. That's so unnatural, and that's not a good thing. So more and more hospitals are coming around to try to create a much more comfortable, natural experience where they don't push vaccines. They allow a woman to labor naturally, et cetera. And of course, occasionally emergencies happen and C-sections do happen and so forth. But women have been delivering for thousands of years naturally at home. I think it's a perfectly acceptable, safe option under the right circumstances.
And going back to your package insert, the midwife was the first person I ever heard explain the vaccines.
Sure.
Before that, none of them.
Yeah.
Just take it, don't worry about it. And she's like, well, are you sure you want to do this? And explain it. We're like, no.
Yeah.
Next one, no. Okay. And then even going to the pediatrician, majority, 99.8%, are pushing every vaccine under the sun. And they kind of look at you funny when you say, I'm going to wait.
In part, the pediatricians are doing that because 50% of their income is based on the Wellchild check and the vaccinations. The Wellchild check is BS. It was created to align with the CDC's recommended childhood vaccine schedule. Come in at 2 months and 4 months and 8 months and 12 months and 15 months, as if the pediatrician or primary care doctor has some special knowledge to tell a mom that their baby is healthy. We don't. Coming in to be weighed, sure. Coming in to talk about nutrition, absolutely. Coming in every few months to have a Wellchild check, that's on the vaccine industries. So pediatricians and primary care doctors make about 50% of their income
just from staying on the vaccine schedule.
Just from billing insurance for a Wellchild check, billing insurance for vaccines. They buy their vaccines at wholesale. They charge the insurance companies a much higher profit margin, a markup, and that's how they make about 50% of their money. I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
And that's why they argue that this is important, it's necessary, safe and effective. Listen, if these vaccines are safe and effective, by the way, why do the vaccine companies need liability protection? If these vaccines are safe and effective, make the case. Make the case to the American people and let them decide if they're so safe and effective. I think under no circumstances should any person, baby and adult, be required to get a vaccine as a prerequisite for employment, as a prerequisite for joining the military, and certainly for attending school.
That's the issue I'm running into is both of my kids are not.
Yeah, because we live in California.
And my daughter's 3.5, so had to start a pod.
For sure.
My son's 7 months.
Well, you're smart enough and resourceful enough that you're able to do that. Many parents aren't. And in California, there are no religious exemptions. There are no medical exemptions, practically speaking. Technically, there is. So I can write a religious medical exemption if I can document a severe allergic reaction to a particular vaccine, but then I can only write the exemption for that vaccine. And then I have to upload your child's data into the Sacramento database. And then if I do that for 5 or more patients, I'm automatically audited by the Medical Board of California. So practically speaking, no doctors will do that anymore.
Nobody's going to put their license on
That's going to change, though. There are several lawsuits going on Likely it'll reach the Supreme Court, but I think at minimum we'll bring back religious exemptions here in California, but it's going to take a bit of time.
Jeff, are there any vaccines? Because, growing up, I got vaccines. I got vaccinated.
Sure.
Are there any vaccines?
With only a small number.
Yeah. Are there any small amount of vaccines that you think might be necessary or no?
So it has to be individualized.
Of course.
And I never tell parents what they should or shouldn't get. I just inform them about the vaccines that they're thinking about being administered. So if you're listening to this podcast and you learn nothing else, just read the package insert, and particularly read package insert 13.1 and read the ingredients. You'll see so many ingredients that you don't even know what they are, these chemical ingredients.
So
like
what's the alternative?
Polysorbate 80, aluminum. This year's flu shot, they brought back thimerosal, which is a mercury-derived preservative. They're not healthy. What's the alternative?
Yeah.
I don't know. Go ask the Amish. They don't vaccinate their kids. I'm serious, and they've done studies looking at the Amish.
They have zero autism.
They have like almost zero autism.
Well, I meant like for polio, or
they have
like
zero of all of that
like
too.
that.
Yeah, I mean, go look up polio, for example, and people think, oh my God, you want people having polio? Listen, polio was on its way out way before the vaccine came along. We were getting rid of polio because of sanitation and hygiene issues long before the polio vaccine came out. And then they changed the definition of what polio is. And now many of the vaccines have a warning on it for another type of paralytic condition that mimics polio called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And so some of these vaccines, like the HPV vaccine, like the MMR vaccine, have a warning right in it that this vaccine may cause Guillain-Barré syndrome. You just need to educate yourself. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't vaccinate your kid. Do so with eyes wide open, with full informed consent.
So know what you're doing.
Push.
And if you choose to do it, but just don't go in it blindly.
100%. Yeah, that's right. And consult with a few different doctors and make an informed decision. Do your own research. Read the book. Unintentionally Unavoidably Unsafe Childhood Vaccines Reconsidered. That's a book we wrote recently. It's a guidebook. It talks about every single childhood vaccine. There's a section in it about what questions you should ask your pediatrician or primary care doctor.
Do you also see children, Jeff?
I do, yeah. Newborns, grandma and grandpa, and everything in between. So I have a lot of people coming to me because they don't want their pediatrician or primary care doctor to push vaccines, and I never push vaccines. I educate, I don't indoctrinate.
I like it.
I like the longevity topic.
I know you do.
Because
but the longevity topic still goes back to the root of what he's saying. Eat clean.
Of chronic illness. Yeah.
And like the shower one, which is something so simple, I talked on with the parasite lady. Most people don't realize.
Kim Rogers, you talked to her? Yeah, she's great.
Phenomenal. Made me not want to eat 90% of the shit, but
like sushi and stuff.
Yeah,
I know.
But she travels with a portable shower filter.
Oh wow. Okay.
And because she's always on the road.
Yeah.
And like for me, there's times where I'm on the road for 3 weeks, and she's like, I just carry a wrench and the head.
That is hilarious.
I'm like, you actually fucking travel with that? She's like, yeah. And it's just quite interesting that people like my daughter takes a 25-minute shower.
Right.
But I have whole home filtration. I have all this stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm not that worried.
Right.
But if you're not in a home like that, in an apartment, and kids love to play in the water, are you filtering it?
What about swimming pools?
So what
about hot tubs?
The strategy I kind of think, I'm like, I can't bend the whole world to like meet my thing. But can I just, soak up a whole bunch of crap and then do a detox and then soak up a whole bunch of crap?
No, I mean, yeah, you can do that, but no.
You can do the whole home filtration.
It's hard. I mean,
first of all, do the whole home filtration.
You're doing more than most people, as we've talked in your numbers and how you eat and how you take care of yourself. Of course. So look for little tweaks that you can do.
Well, I've done that
to enhance. Like you've got a cup of tea here in a plastic cup.
I can't. No, this is iced tea because I don't want hot.
Well, fine.
Yeah.
So grab a Yeti, a Stanley, or whatever, some ceramic mug, and take it to your iced tea place and fill that up.
I like throwing these away. I don't want to these little pain in the butts that I don't want to like inconvenience myself. That I'm like, maybe I'll take every quarter, go to a doctor and say, all right, clean me up, doc. Like
for sure.
Stick a hose up your ass, flush you out.
Whatever you got to do.
Right.
Just clean me up.
Coffee enemas, whatever.
Yeah.
Go get NAD infusion.
But for the average person though, all of that little stuff adds up.
Oh,
at our level where we're trying to tweak to the finest,
different.
It's a completely different.
I imagine the average person who's listening to this podcast or watching us, has foundational things that they can do that are so more important than what supplement they take or taking a peptide or whatever. There's some basic things that they can do that can dramatically improve your health. It's like a pyramid, right?
Changing
The top
deodorant.
of the pyramid is very small and we tweak little things in the longevity space. But the bottom of the pyramid is big and important. What you eat, what you put in your body, how do you sleep? Are you in nature? Are you grounding? All the basics that are so important before you get into the fine tuning of it all.
I mean, my sleep is 8 hours. My stress is very low. And I really do try to eat clean and exercise and lift weights 3 times a week. So those are definitely done. Occasionally I'll have something out of a plastic cup, but occasionally I'll use fluoride. Occasionally I'll use Listerine because I'm like, I can't just, I know I'll detox it down the road later. And so I guess the detox, someone for like we do NAD. I mean, we did 1 gram NAD
that shit fucking
3 weeks
hurt.
ago, and it was the most painful.
IV. It's
Oh,
miserable.
Oh,
so,
at one
1
point I just
gram?
fucking wide opened it and I couldn't
Oh,
move when
it's
I
horrible.
walked.
It's
So I
so
just had to
painful.
ride it.
I know. I've done NAD too.
glutathione, you know,
All
all
of
the
the
things.
above.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Epithalon.
our office administrator is the NAD queen. She downed 750 milligrams of NAD in 15 minutes.
Fuck
Oof.
that. I'm out.
Yeah.
We did 1 gram in like 2.5, 3
She had,
hours.
she had a waste can next to her because she
Just to
thought
throw up.
any moment she was going to throw up.
I
Yeah.
thought I was going to shit my pants, for being honest. Like,
Yeah.
my stomach was like, fuck.
But
this
when
hurts.
I
People
take-
are listening and go, oh yeah, sign me up for that.
But it feels great. You feel younger. You get a lot more energy.
Sure.
With glutathione also. I mean, I'm just like super
Well,
energized right
I
after.
also did Ebu too, which
Ebu is another
first
thing I want to
day-
talk about.
I felt like horse shit just because my body was like, what the fuck just happened? Next
Right.
day I felt great.
Yeah.
What
So-
do you think about that?
Well, again, you're talking about the narrow part of the pyramid
course.
of longevity people, most of whom are not listening right now, and they're kind of tuning out and going, I don't know what you're talking about. NAD, I'm not doing that.
Well, we'll clip this and make it a short.
I think there are endless things you can do that haven't been tested but make some sense on paper. And if you listen to Dave Asprey, who is probably the king in the longevity movement,
I
he
think
does
David
some-
Sinclair is he not?
both of them.
Harvard professor,
But they
reverses
do,
aging.
they do crazy stuff. They get onto Mexico and foreign countries and they do all kinds of stem cell injection and
We've done that.
plasmapheresis. You take the blood out and you filter it.
I
you
do
put
wanna
it back
try that.
in, and-
My sister needed to do a plasma exchange because she had TTP.
well, that's different.
Yeah, so she
Yeah.
did that, and I saw her go from like this to that.
But I'm talking about doing it from a longevity standpoint. Like I was at a conference recently called A4M
In Vegas.
in Vegas. Yeah. What's A4M? American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine or something. And Asprey was the keynote speaker. And he made a comment. He says, well, whatever you do in the next few years, don't die. So,
Yeah.
Wait, what? He said, there are so many things coming down the pike that are going to benefit the average person. So stay alive for a few more years. And he said, and by the way, if you're in a car crash and it's an SUV versus a Prius, I want to be in the SUV.
Actually, you bring up an interesting point. I got into an accident
In a
driving a
Prius.
Prius against a truck, flipped it over 3 times,
Oh, shoot.
and survived.
Oh,
So,
how about that? And then you know,
I mean, it was, you know,
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Elon
But I
Musk.
agree.
I'm not sure that I want to sit in a Tesla with all the EMF. We haven't even talked about EMF and the dangers of that, electromagnetic fields and so forth.
I
So,
like my Escalade.
yeah, me too. I drive a Ford F-150, so I like that.
I the Ford F-150 hit my Prius
There you go.
head on too. Yeah, it was very traumatic.
He was
but-
trying to talk me out of a pickup truck. I like
Yeah.
pickup trucks.
Yeah, for sure. They're big. You can throw your stuff in it.
Yeah,
pile-
don't even have to
pile
worry.
people in it. Yeah, for sure.
People get out of the way. Priuses, just push them out the way.
So, what is a week regimen look for you? How many hours of sleep are you getting? What are you eating in the mornings? What supplements are you taking? What's in your closet, your cabinet, medicine cabinet,
I
and
take-
in your refrigerator?
I take a lot of supplements. I think there are some basic supplements that most people would benefit from, and that includes fish cod liver oil.
And what's the dose that you take with all these?
I get about 4,000 milligrams of EPA plus DPA per day. So those are the 2 important ingredients within fish oil. And I get it from both standard fish oil and from cod liver oil. Cod liver oil I really like because it's got natural vitamin D and natural vitamin A in it. I take an anti-inflammatory supplement called Inflammatone by Designs for Health. It's got resveratrol, curcumin, ginger, boswellia, a couple other anti-inflammatory ingredients. I take magnesium every day. I love the product.
Which magnesium? Glycinate or?
Both. So there's a company called Smidge, Smidge. It's a family-owned business out of Florida. Dan Kerrigan is the owner. He's coming out with a book. I just wrote the foreword to it. They make two products called morning magnesium and evening magnesium. I take both. I take zinc. I think during COVID, people took way too much zinc, upset their stomach, did not do them a good service. Plus, if you take standalone zinc, it can't be absorbed. You need the cofactors along with it. So there's a product made by Smidge also called Oyster Zinc. It's literally from oysters, a great form of zinc. It's got selenium, B12, copper in it, I think. I can't remember. So I take that as a form of copper, as a form of zinc. What else do I take? I take Whole Package that I talked about. That's Paul Saladino's company, Heart and Soil. There's probably a couple other ones. I take creatine. I lift weights and work out at least 4 days a week. A couple months ago, I started kickboxing, which is an incredible workout. And I mix that in with running. I'm lucky I live at the beach. I try to ground.
Do you intermittent fast or are you eating 3 meals a day?
A little bit of both. I kind of mix it up depending on how I'm feeling. I often don't eat breakfast. So usually I'll bring breakfast to work, a piece of sourdough bread with some sort of nut spread on it. I love nutso, a little drizzle of honey, chopped up organic apple, some sort of meat, usually leftover from whatever I had for dinner, for lunch. For dinner, it's often some sort of meat product, grass-fed organic beef. I love ribeyes. I don't eat a lot of vegetables.
Do you eat the fat of the ribeye as well?
Yeah, that's saturated
That's what
fat.
we used to do, like
That's
3-4
saturated
times.
fat.
I know.
It's so,
I want
it's
him
so
to
good
say
for you. Yeah,
Okay. I'm
saturated
setting
fat.
him up here, but
That's
I'm
why I
just
like a ribeye, because it's one of the fattier cuts of steak.
And why do you eat the fat?
Because it's so healthy. Saturated fat from a healthy source is incredible. It's anti-inflammatory, helps reduce insulin resistance. It's a wonderful product.
And what vitamins are usually found in the fat?
The B vitamins are rich in fat.
Are they methylated forms since it's coming from the animal?
100%.
So
It's natural forms of B vitamins. That's why vegetarians, God bless them, are often deficient in many vitamins that they're not getting from animal products. They have to work really hard to make sure that they're not vitamin deficient.
well, cows are vegetarians. So
Cows
if you're
are
eating
vegetarians.
Cows, you're
100%.
There you go.
That's right.
You're a vegetarian.
I eat the animal that eats the food that vegetarians eat.
You're just doing them a favor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then as far as stress relief, what do you do to decompress from stress?
I drink a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, whiskey.
Do you really?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't. Meditation, breath work, being in nature, grounding for me is the best way. I walk to the beach. I take my shoes and socks off. I get into the salt water, or I'll sit there and meditate. I'll spend time in nature and time in the sun. That's what I do to de-stress. And of course, we talked a little bit about this. I pray. I read the Bible. So that's important to me as well.
So can you list the order of importance? Sleep, exercise, nutrition, supplements, and stress.
Yeah, I think supplements are last.
Okay.
I think sleep is first. You know, I've heard it said sleep is the tide that raises all other health boats. If you're getting shitty sleep, boy, it's really hard. It's really hard to be healthy. So fix the sleep first. I've done podcasts and posts on, what do we mean by good sleep?
Yeah, what is your definition of good sleep?
Well, wear a trackable
Oh,
device. So I had an Oura Ring for a while. I've used different devices to actually track my sleep. And so if you're not getting deep sleep and you're not getting close to 8 hours of sleep,
is what you need.
Ideally, there's
So what if you only
And
get
it runs an hour and a half.
opinions
What
on
if you
that.
get
Yeah,
like
a full
30
cycle.
minutes of deep over 8 hours and like 45 of
Well, I
REM?
mean, how do you feel? I mean, do you wake up feeling rested and energetic?
No, he craves
No.
shit food
Yeah,
all day
I
long.
crave. Yeah.
Well, ideally fixing your sleep, then fixing your nutrition.
So sleep first, nutrition second,
I think so. Exercise is important.
third.
Stress, grounding,
Okay.
gratitude, I think is so important. Having some sort of purpose.
So for people listening,
And
the first
supplements, you
thing-
can't get healthy with supplements.
Yeah.
Supplements should be something that is an add-on to your otherwise really good habits, short of being able to identify something that you're deficient in. You mentioned the fatty acid profile, so certainly I do that regardless of how somebody takes care of themselves. I want to correct that because that's a powerful inflammatory marker. So that's why I think most people, well, I forgot on supplements, I also take an organ meat supplement called Organ Synergy by Designs for Health. I think most people would benefit fish oil, cod liver oil, and an organ meat supplement. If they did just that, I think they would be better off.
And everyone hears inflammation, but no one knows really what damage that can actually do to the body. So can you talk about inflammation over time?
It makes you die early.
How?
Well, when you wake up and you don't feel good, when you have cardiovascular disease, when you're developing cancer, when your joints hurt and you can't move, when you have rashes on your skin, that's all inflammation coming out of your body.
Right?
For sure.
How many years of inflammation is that?
It starts when we're born. When we jam aluminum into your body in the form of hepatitis B, the inflammation immediately starts.
Great, I'm fucked.
So you have this constant inflammation just kind of brewing, and then it causes cancers, it causes heart disease. Is that
Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, obesity, etc.
And then how does sugar play a role in causing diseases?
Sugar is highly inflammatory, especially the processed sugar. Little bit of raw honey, fine. Occasional cookie, okay. But if you're
fruits are okay.
Fruits are okay.
Combining them with protein, I think, is better.
Better. So if you're going to eat a lot of fruit, if you're going to eat some sugar and carbs, it's always best to eat it with protein and fat because it helps delay the absorption of those in your body.
And if someone's what my trainer tells me is anytime you have sugar cravings, just load up on fiber, and eventually having a lot of fiber will kick that sugar craving.
That's helpful. Like the Cheerios banana guy that I talked about, my patient. Mm-hmm. So he self-corrected by adding protein into his diet. So he's now eating cottage cheese, a much better choice. If he continued to eat Cheerios and a banana, he could also just add some hard-boiled eggs or some beef jerky or something like that to help blunt the sugar response to the Cheerios that he was eating. But Cheerios, read the labels, enriched.
The box is better for you than the actual product.
It is, and the box says, maybe heart healthy, endorsed by the American Heart Association.
No, just eating the box. The paper box is healthier than the actual
box
Cheerios.
Would be better. Not the plastic wrapper, but
but the
cardboard
would be healthy.
With the color.
It's made with enriched grains. It's got artificial colors, artificial sweeteners. It's garbage.
Yeah. Amazing. Did we miss anything? Is there anything we didn't cover?
No, because we could go way down the rabbit hole talking about stem cells and everything else. But like you said, you got to get, for the average person.
Your body has to be clean to absorb everything. That's kind of what I got from this, right?
Get the foundation correct first.
What if you have the foundation minus the sleep?
That's the biggest part. He said number one is sleep.
I mean, you do the best. So, real briefly, what's the basic sleep hygiene program? Go to bed the same time, wake up the same time every day. Okay, start with that. Before you go to bed, turn off all electronics at least a couple hours before you go to sleep. Okay, let's do that. Stop eating at least a couple hours, ideally longer, before you go to bed.
What if you wake up hungry during the middle of the night?
Then maybe you're not eating enough calories and enough protein for dinner.
What if you do?
Now you get into bed. Don't have a TV in your bedroom. Don't have a plug-in clock radio in your bedroom. Eliminate all EMF. Make sure your bedroom is cool. Make sure it's dark. You shouldn't see the moon shining through or your neighbor's lights shining through. Dark room, dark and cool.
Jeff,
the only thing you should be
68 degrees is the magic number.
Nobody knows. But
Equinox in New York, their hotel. All the rooms are 68 degrees, and they said they said 68 is the magic number.
My sleep 8 though, some days it's higher, some days it's lower. It's auto-correcting through the night.
That doesn't mean that you should be cold when you sleep. You can climb under your warm sheets, but the room itself
has to be cold.
Should be cold. Ideally, there's only 2 things you should do in bed: breed and read.
Okay, there we go. I was about to say.
So if you need to do something when you climb into bed, get a book. Read your Bible, paper book, not electronic, not on your phone.
If you read it like this and you fall asleep, it'll fall in your head.
Don't sit in bed scrolling Brian's social media, as enticing as it is.
I actually keep my social media on another phone so I don't waste time on it.
Okay, good. Put your phone in the other room to charge. I don't keep my phone next to my bed. I don't use my phone as an alarm clock.
Mine's on top of my head.
On Amazon. I bought a battery operated old fashioned little alarm clock, and so that's my alarm clock that wakes me up.
I naturally wake up at the same time though, without an alarm clock.
That's good.
So I've got a pretty good 6:30, 6 o'clock every morning. Just naturally wake up without an alarm clock.
Yeah. No, that's good. So those are basic sleep hygiene issues. And then if you're doing all those things and you still can't sleep, go get some help. Do you have sleep apnea? Do a sleep study. There's ways to do sleep studies to make sure you don't have some obstruction thing that's going on that's waking you up multiple times during the night.
And sleep apnea causes a whole set of other diseases, right?
Oh, yeah. Hypertension,
I think we
cardiovascular disease, brain fog. I think it's in part responsible for metabolic dysfunction, diabetes, and so forth. When you sleep like shit, the first thing you do in the morning is you want to find the coffee. You probably want to eat some sort of sugar to try to wake you up. So try to get up in the morning, at least 30 grams of protein for breakfast. If you're a coffee drinker, make your coffee, go outside.
I have a problem with the 30
early
grams.
morning sunshine.
I don't want to break my fast because I fast.
That's fine.
So I try to push that 30 gram. I know everyone, like a lot of doctors say, have your protein first thing in the morning when you wake up. But I just, with guys that fast like 1 or 2 meals a day, I'm eating at 3 o'clock.
That's fine. And by the way, I know it's a shocker to you, but men and women are not the same.
Really?
I know it's crazy, but it's true. So when you talk about intermittent fasting, it's not the same for women, and you got to be really careful. If you're a woman going 8 or 12 hours, in the morning until 2 in the afternoon to eat. Same thing with cold plunges. Cold plunges is like the thing. Everybody wants a cold plunge.
I don't.
I don't either.
I know.
don't do it.
I actually bought a cold plunge at my place, and I went in the first time. I'm like, oh fuck, no, I'm not doing it.
My shoulders and back are hurting. I'll go do cryo for 3 minutes.
So I don't cold plunge, but I think it's a healthy habit if you want to do that, but it's not the same for men and women. Depending on where a woman is in her menstrual cycle would determine whether that cold is good for her or not. The same temperature that a man might endure, in the mid 40s may not be healthy for a woman. Somebody who's trying to get pregnant, be very careful about cold plunging, etc. So men and women are not the same. We can't just generalize that what is good for a dude is good for a girl.
Jeff, you brought up another good topic. Is trying to get pregnant and they're having a hard time.
Sure.
So what techniques would you, maybe I should have said that, but you guys don't know who so
got a picture?
Oh shit. So what fuck.
Sleep, diet, chemicals.
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what I just said.
You're fine.
What techniques?
Doggy style. It might work.
I'm so fucked. What techniques would you recommend?
It has to be individualized. I have to know a lot.
Generally speaking.
I mean, she's got to take really good care of herself, right? She's got to eat clean. She should not be fasting. She should not be cold plunging. Same thing with him. I mean, men are responsible.
I have
for
7
half the problems, when
sister-in-laws, by the way.
comes for infertility.
No.
And interestingly, another intervention for infertility that I'm recommending, guys and girls, see a chiropractor.
Chiropractor.
Yeah,
Seriously?
that's a thing.
For guys
I know. I'm
or
telling
women?
you, for men and women. I mean, if you think about it, our spinal cord goes north and south, right? And then east and west are all these shoots that go out from our spinal cord and innervate every area of our body. Well, listen, if we have some low back problems and our spinal cord and the nerves that are coming out are being impinged and it's not innervating our testicles, if you will, where testosterone and sperm are being produced properly, seeing a chiropractor, relieving that dysfunction can be helpful. Same thing for women. Women need to ovulate and cervical mucus and the whole thing. So sometimes seeing a chiropractor can be very helpful in the umbrella of I'm struggling with infertility.
Well, it also, on the flip, it helps for before the baby comes too.
Oh, sure. I mean, I see a chiropractor weekly. Not because I have pain, not because I have problems, because I think it's good for health maintenance. You don't just take your car in when it breaks down. Ideally, you're taking you're not driving
my
a
wife.
Prius. Yeah, you're not actually driving.
wife waits until it looks like
totaled.
Right. But ideally, you're taking your car in every, however many thousands of miles and having an oil change and having a tune-up and so forth. We should do that with our body.
Unless you're my wife.
I think seeing a chiropractor on a regular basis, for me, a good chiropractor is part of an overall health program. So if you're listening, Billy DeMoss, you rock in Newport Beach. He's a freedom-fighting chiropractor that has been on the front lines for many, many years.
Interesting. Very interesting. What do you think about some of the doctors that are on TV, like not Gary Brecka, Dr. Pompa? Dr. Pompa is talking about a lot of the mold toxicity.
Well, then you can go back to Kim Rogers.
Kim Rogers, parasite cleanse and so forth. Mold is a big deal. Again, Somebody comes in and they're chronically not feeling well, and we've done everything we can from a traditional standard blood testing. Then we start looking at more esoteric stuff like mold exposure. Like, are you being exposed to mold in your own house? How would you know? Well, when you travel, do you feel better? Sometimes that can be a clue. And there are mold experts that will go in and test your house. You can do it's called a Swiffer test, like those Swiffer things that clean up your floor. You do that, you take the Swiffer apron, if you will, you can send it to a company and they will analyze it for various types of molds that you might be exposed to.
And also allergies. I've heard that allergies is basically your inflamed state, that sometimes if you're inflamed from a 1 through 10 at a 5 level.
Yeah, but why do people have chronic allergies now? Well, imagine you're a little kid and you come into my office to get your Wellchild check, and I'm going to vaccinate you. Well, it's also April and pollen count is really high. And I inject aluminum into your body that stimulates your immune system to wake up to whatever it's seeing. And you're being exposed to pollen or peanuts or anything else. And now I've created a lifelong chronic allergy because I've just injected aluminum into your system as an adjuvant, and your system has woken up to whatever you're exposed to. Certainly the antigen that's in the vaccine, but also the pollen that's in the air, the peanut butter that's in your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now suddenly you can't eat peanuts anymore because you're allergic to it. I think that scenario, that premise needs to be investigated. I think it's a thing why we're seeing chronic allergies.
What about, I've heard that if you have raw local honey from your area or
100%.
Where you live, that helps with allergies as well.
It can, because the bees are pollinating whatever the flowers are that you might be allergic to. So it's almost like a little mini desensitization, but it's got to be local.
Yeah, local.
So you got to ask at the farmer's market, where are their bees producing the honey? And if it's in your local area, yeah, that's a good thing to do.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, I'm all out of questions.
You guys are funny.
Brian?
I'm thinking.
So, Jeff, do you have any, I guess, final words to leave with us?
Yeah.
After going through this grilling session of asking you a ton of questions?
No, I love it. You guys are actually pretty smart. And I love,
even with the fluoride.
Even with the fluoride. And I love what you do on social media. I've been following you for a long time. So I really appreciate your outfit, your vehicle of sharing some very interesting things. Again, my goal here is to help people get healthy so they can serve God's purpose in their life. And I think that's an important element of living, to have a relationship with some sort of higher power that's more important than you, that kind of drives what you do. You can learn more about me on my social, RX4 Liberty, RX4FOR Liberty. Follow me, message me if you want. I respond to most messages. And my goal is to help you master your own health and get you a little bit better tomorrow than you are today.
One final question. Are you taking on new patients?
I am taking on new patients. We have a waiting list. I also do consulting, telehealth, telemedicine consulting. So if you don't live in the local area, you can reach out to me. And if you want to spend a half hour, an hour on the phone with me, learning a little bit about what we talked about, having me help you with whatever problem that you have going on, I do that as well.
Great. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate
You're
you taking
welcome.
the drive up, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for helping me, or having me rather.
Of
and
course.
helping me. Yeah.